Okay, and welcome to another episode of the Holistic Monitor. And I am your host, Nick Sconia. Today we're going to be talking about ayahuasca, and most specifically the ayahuasca retreat with Morpho Tours. And we're going to bring in Hamilton Souther. He's going to be talking about what he does with Morpho Tours to bring people to this ayahuasca experience and retreat. Hey, how we doing, Hamilton? How's it going today?
Hey, Nick, it's going great. Thanks. How are you doing?
Very good. Very good. So you work specifically to help people to find ayahuasca. Is that right?
I do. Yeah. I started 22 years ago. I was one of the early people in the space, had participated in ceremony myself in my early 20s, and it was incredible. And I thought it was something that people in the world needed access to. And so I started Blue Morpho to help people be able to access these kinds of ceremonies.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot going on 22 years ago as far as specific tours or specific retreats to areas. I think it was more like a little bit more freeform.
It was a lot more freeform. Yeah. The general understanding at that time was that it was something that a tourist could do to experience, like a one-off experience in their lives. But the real merit of it and its real medicinal qualities hadn't really been shared or discovered with the West yet. And so we were one of the first groups to organize around people coming for extended periods of time to have plant medicine experiences and really receive the benefits from the treatments.
So one of the benefits would be that that lift off, that being pulled out of your reality so that you can kind of re-examine the way things are going for you and maybe get put back into reality with the way things you want them to be, or in a more balanced perspective on life. That would be like one visit, right?
Yeah, I think that, most people would agree that when people have problems, often there's a mental component to that problem. Mm-hmm. And even Einstein said you can't solve a problem in the same frame of mind you have the problem in. And so I think that these kinds of ceremonies are really powerful for helping people reach a new frame of mind and also be able to release unresolved issues that they may be experiencing. And so it's great for trauma. It's great for when someone finds himself in a difficult situation in their life, that this kind of ceremonial intervention and these kinds of plant medicines can have real impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a lot of people that come to us as a last resort as far as they're concerned. They've tried a lot of different things and they want to see what we have to offer is going to work for them to answer, to give them some answers. Do you find that with who's coming to your service, this tour, that the people are kind of at that brink where they need an answer. They need to get some kind of resolution to the issues at hand?
Very much so. I think when most people come to this, there's either a specific need they want to solve and fulfill, or they have real curiosity and they want to learn. And those are really the two big groups of people that come down. And often it's people who've tried many other things. I mean, you'd obviously think you would try something maybe a little closer to home or something more in alignment with your own culture. So you might try Western medication or psychotherapy. You may try counseling, friends groups, et cetera. And I think when people finally exhaust those options, they've heard that this might be a thing that could really help them. And, now incredibly in the world, millions of people have sought solutions through plant medicine, including ayahuasca, and have found solutions.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. And it is really a rattling kind of get yourself out of yourself so that you can process things, have a higher perspective, maybe a more unified perspective on your own life, to maybe see it from the eagle eye. That way you can kind of make more clear decisions in life and maybe change things in your world, that kind of thing. Are you seeing that there's a shift? And you've been at this for 22 years. Are
Yeah.
you seeing that there's been a shift in, obviously in popularity? There has been. Is there a shift in the intent of people that are going to seek this plant medicine? Was it more for a spiritual enlightenment and an exercise in expansion of consciousness before, and now it's more medical or emotional trauma related? Or are you seeing it's kind of always been that?
I think it's all of those things. The nature of the practices down here are called plant spirit medicine. And so people come both for the spiritual awakening experience associated with it and then the medicinal quality, and they kind of go hand in hand. So I don't think anyone goes through a series of ayahuasca ceremonies without having this spiritual or mystical component come to it. I think maybe in the last 10 years, you see a lot more people understanding that there's an opportunity in the ceremonies to expand consciousness and come to a greater form of clarity within their consciousness and really bring that focus to it. So I think there
Mm.
always was a spiritual learning, spiritual expansion quality to it. And now a deep focus to the exploration of consciousness, and that being part of what we think of as learning. And then always the nature of the personal healing and personal development.
Yeah, I think when I first heard about excursions into the jungle for ayahuasca, it may have been a blend of both, but I think it was mostly people that were at that point where they needed an answer for something emotional, something in their life that was chaotic, an addiction, that sort of thing. And I believe that there's been a lot more popularity towards finding other kinds of answers out of ayahuasca. I've heard that there is a clinic that is trying to sustain the experience. Now, I don't know if that's ayahuasca related or specifically DMT related, but DMT is a very different kind of experience, and ayahuasca would be something that I would call like it's been practiced for so many years. It's kind of a tried and true method. Whereas DMT, there may be some unpredictability to it. Would you agree with that?
I think one of the psychoactive components of ayahuasca is DMT and or dimethyltryptamine. And when you drink ayahuasca, the ayahuasca has an inhibitor in it that goes into the brain and allows for the DMT to stay there for a longer period of time. And so the ayahuasca traditions and lineages already figured out a way to be able to have 8, 10, 12-hour extended periods of time in the visionary state produced by dimethyltryptamine. What I think is unique with ayahuasca is that there's this organic quality associated with it that many people speak to that doesn't seem to be part of the narration or experiences others have when they've taken pure synthesized DMT or dimethyltryptamine. And so I think there's a big difference in the quality of the visionary experiences that people have. I think there's a big difference in not only in the nature of the quality, like organic or inorganic, also the nature of what they see in their visions.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's this tremendous now mapping and log of commonalities in ayahuasca experiences amongst people from all different parts of the world, going to different parts of the world to, partake in this kind of plant medicine. And so there's commonalities there, nature visions, animal visions or spirits, entities, different kind of light beings or shapes that are seen, the sacred geometry, the fractal nature of it, all seems to have this very organic quality. And that seems to be, I think, the big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Greek mystery school, the Eleusis, I believe it was they also had a concoction that was drank by the people that were there for the celebration. They would drink this concoction, kikian, I believe it was called, or something like that. Not something that was, again, ayahuasca comes about, as far as the brew, it comes about by composing two different things together to make this very special medicine. And I believe the kikian also had a multiple different things that were put into it to create some kind of visionary experience where those that were gathered would have a very similar experience, one that kind of united them. And it was something that everybody did. It was part of culture. Is that part of what you see in Peru, maybe tribal culture? Is that it's an accepted means of greater community unity?
Yeah, there is. First of all, the indigenous people consider the plants to be a natural part of their life and lifestyle. And there isn't this overarching categorization and conceptualization of drugs and what produces altered states. And you'll see in the tribal communities that work with ayahuasca, various kinds of ayahuasca ceremonies that vary in the plant compositions of the medicines, literally the way they're made and what are their ingredients, all the way to different strengths that would be appropriate for the use of a larger number of people in the community. So you'll see tribes that will have a very thin liquid ayahuasca that's pure vine. It doesn't have any dimethyltryptamine in it. And the people collectively drink it as a great purgative and a great cleansing that, it's a time to make amends with people, make relationships better, improve the solidarity of the tribe. And then there are the specific cases where somebody has a diagnosed need for a much more concentrated form of the plant that has different admixtures in it. It can make it a purgative. Sometimes they'll put tobacco in it as well. And if you drink tobacco juice, it's a tremendous purgative. So they'll add that to it to support that purging quality, and it'll be considered a great stomach and intestinal cleanse. And then there's the psychosomatic to psychospiritual illnesses that people have. And those are typically brews that are heavy with the dimethyltryptamine. They take people into this deep altered state. There is a psychological and guided intervention into the frame of mind that they're in, the visionary states that they go into. And there's a great reset that takes place inside their mind and in their brain during that period of time.
So it has multiple layers depending on how you want to utilize it as an herb, as a medicine. It has many different functions.
Precisely. Yeah. I mean, you're even now seeing people microdosing pure vine, pure ayahuasca vine. Banisteriopsis caapi turned into a form of microdose, very similar to how passion flower was used as an MAOI for boosting mood and stabilizing through natural means, the brain chemistry. People are starting to do that now. That's a very new invention for ayahuasca and the Amazon. It was never needed. It was never even considered as a means of how you would work with the plant. But as we've seen people awaken to the value of the plants, they're experimenting and finding new ways to work with them.
So there are a multitude of different herbs with many different functions that the what would you call the person, a curandero or a somebody that works with the plants and the plant medicine?
Yeah, they're called curanderos or médico vegetalista, which means doctor of plants or doctor of vegetation. There are hundreds of plants that are used. The visionary plants are a very small subset of the majority of plant medicine that's practiced here in the Amazon. The majority of it is tinctures and poultices and teas that you would think would be very easy if you just had this great pharmacopoeia of medicinal plants out your backyard, and you just walked out there and you started gathering some leaves or some branches or some roots, etc., and you know how to prepare them. And so the main mechanisms are teas, poultices, medicinal baths where they'll boil them in water and then bathe their body in it, and they absorb it through their skin. And some are smoked. Some of the leaves are smoked in pipes and things like that. But that's the typical way that the plant medicine gets administered. And then there's the visionary ones. And the visionary plants are only utilized traditionally when there's a need or a reason. So there aren't a group of people that consume them for the purpose of a whim or a desire or a party culture. It doesn't exist.
Right.
It's a sacred role to be a curandero or a médico vegetalista, just like it's a sacred role in our societies to be a doctor who's allowed to prescribe medicine. You're not supposed to prescribe medicine, pharmaceutical medicine for recreational purposes. Same thing with this. This is a highly guarded and esteemed role within the society. And the people that practice it typically with great responsibility. And they diagnose when it's appropriate to use ayahuasca or the other visionary plants and administer them accordingly.
Yeah. Now, there seems to be a bit of a debate amongst, I guess, the crowd that does ayahuasca on the people going down to get these experiences for recreational means or superficial means or reasons, and those that are more pure to what they're looking to get. Could it be said that anybody doing it is going to be having a transcendental experience, regardless of the recreational desire, or something like that, or passing a rite of recreational want?
Sure. I think if you show up with an intention that's outside the intention of the ceremony, you're just going to be in some kind of conflict with it within yourself. And first, I think that to put it into context, the ayahuasca is administered in a ceremonial setting, and people will come to participate and observe, and they may not have the deepest intentions, and it might be a more explorative journey for them. But I think if you look at the intention of the curandero or the médico vegetalista, they know that you're going to have an interaction with this plant that's considered to be extremely intelligent and filled with a mechanism of consciousness to interact with you. It is transcendental by nature, even the way that it's conceived of. And so I think it would be pretty difficult for somebody to have the experience and not come away with it in a kind of deep, impactful way, to recognize that maybe they had a different idea going into it, but leaving it, they will have realized that there was something more going on there.
Yeah, I feel like there are certain things that can be used in a recreational way for that. I would almost call it maintenance, but that just for a buzz or something like that. There's plenty of, you can even look at marijuana that way. But there are a lot of herbs that cause a reaction that are, I wouldn't consider them to be recreational at all. Not necessarily are a lot of them fun to do, but they may provide for some kind of form of shift in consciousness that may be necessary for that. I think of like Datura or something of that nature that is going to give you an experience. You're going to be inviting this herb into your life, but I wouldn't consider it to be something that's recreational. But then people come to it as if it is going to be a recreational thing. I think they're usually kind of stood in their own place where they're at, and they're going to have the experience they're going to have. And I would imagine with a very long ayahuasca ceremony, people will find sacredness in that, regardless of what their maybe worded intent might be in going down there. But they may find that they're right where they're at.
Very much so. I mean, I think that, at the end of the day, going into the ceremony, you're going to face yourself. And so, I think if you have a positive intention, the plant will respond positively with you. But I think if you go in there in a kind of disrespectful way, you could expect for that to come really forward in the nature of your journey. And that you would have to confront that, and it would give you an opportunity to change your mind. I was on talking with a friend today about it, and he said in his first ayahuasca ceremonies, he was in a victim kind of position in his mind and was facing cancer, and he was really upset with, in his mind, God, and kept thinking, in kind of a profane way, God damn it.
Hmm.
about his predicament, and it just didn't go away in that ceremony. He said it just kept going and going, hour after hour, in this really terrible frame of mind, very sick. And ultimately, in a moment, it flipped to thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you. And when he flipped into gratitude, everything changed in the ceremony. And little by little, by little, by little, by little, by little, over the next hours, every time that negativity, every time that darkness wanted to show up, he would just reaffirm it in the positive with the divine. And he said miraculously that by 3 months later, the cancer had magically disappeared. He
Hmm.
was fully healed through the nature of the experience. Um, and it realigned the nature of his experience with the divine in a very personal way. And so I think that, you know, the plants have a way of giving you plenty of time in your own consciousness to address yourself, your reasons for being there, and to see if the plants ultimately have something to share with you.
Hmm. That sounds great. Yeah, that's amazing. And that positive mental attitude, that is kind of what we're looking to get out of this, is not something that is dark and brooding. We're trying to get out of the dark and brooding and get into this world of light, this world of positivity, and living in a way that's more in accord with nature and with ourselves. And that benefit, I think there's a strong benefit to having positive energy in our life versus that negative spiral, that not so happy place.
I would
uh,
agree. The ayahuasca is really incredible at helping somebody move out of the negative spiral and into a more balanced awareness of the whole them. I mean, everyone has a
mm,
heart, and everyone has been connected at some time in our lives with love, even if it was when we were really little. And we know what that's like. Some of us have had very difficult lives, and it, creates a weight associated with it, a stress. And the plant medicine ceremony can help us come into balance and can help us come into a much deeper awareness and understanding within ourselves. It seems to regulate our internal energetic state as well as our frame of mind. It helps us release a myriad of toxins that we've built up inside our bodies. And it's hard to even put into words everything that can come out of somebody through these experiences and what they purge or expel from them that helps lighten them up in that way. And
mm,
people express that it's great for creating new patterns, like getting past blockages or places where it seems like we confront the same situation over and over again in our lives, kind of spiral in its own right. And so I think the plant medicine is an incredible tool to help people find a much more joyful expression of life, a lighter version of consciousness, also a much deeper balance within themselves.
yeah, yeah. Now, is there traditional holidays where ayahuasca is celebrated at any one point in time in the year? Is there anything like a Halloween, perhaps, that um, allows people to kind of face their darkness and come out on the other side afterward? Anything like that that would reflect like a social celebration?
There are some tribes that do that, and there are some religious organizations that have holidays associated with it, and ayahuasca is part of those celebrations. But typically, the tribes that have that kind of collective face the darkness through a collective purge. So they
Mm,
drink large amounts of very thinly cooked tea, and ultimately it has a physically purgative effect with it. And it's just kind of like throwing it all out or puking it out. You just get it out. Like it gets in
right.
your stomach and it just comes out. And with it, the emotion and the mindset and the traumas and the losses. And it's considered a way to connect with the relatives that have passed on. And it's a great coming together for the tribe.
Mm,
But there isn't specifically like a night of vision for the collective. That's
yeah.
always a kind of a separate thing that's taking place. They happen throughout the year. They happen every week. And it's a
Mm,
healing opportunity or healing ceremony for those that need it. And once they've gone through a treatment, which is usually anywhere from 3 to 5 ceremonies, they're considered treated. And then there's a period of integration afterwards.
Hmm. Now you're in Peru, so the sun is likely a lot more balanced there, so that you're not getting that dynamic 8-spoked wheel like we are in the States here with the different seasons and different checkpoints like Halloween and like Christmas and all that. There's different points in time. Am I right in saying that the day is a little bit more even? The sunrise and sunset's a little bit more balanced.
Indeed.
The sun doesn't move as much dramatically north and south from that perspective.
Yeah, we're at -4 latitude, so we're really
Yeah.
close to the equator.
Yeah.
We're really close to the equator here, and I think it fluctuates about 15 or 20 minutes difference in year round. So
15
I
or 20
think,
minutes. Yeah.
yeah, I think mostly it's pretty 6 to 6,
Yeah.
5:45, 6:30, kind of a
Hard to
concept.
notice.
Yeah, pretty 12 and 12.
Yeah. And then you're in an altitude there, right?
Actually, here it's very low altitude. You go for Peru has really interesting topography. It goes from the beaches up over the Andes. It goes really high in the mountains, and then it drops all the way back down. And so we're only at about 400 feet of altitude.
Oh,
Very,
wow.
very low here. And it's extremely amazing to think of the entire Amazon basin, which from here, which is very west, east, you'll go all the way across Brazil to the Atlantic Ocean. It'll go for over 2,000 miles east,
Yeah.
and it'll only drop 400 feet.
Wow. That's wild. Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
I got the chance to go to Colombia a couple of years back, and for a hike. I was going for a hike and a vacation, and I wasn't prepared for how hilly
Yeah.
that jungle there is. It's all mountain jungle. So you're going up the hill and down the hill, and it's very long. Like 2 hours up, 1 hour down. But you're in the lowland jungle there. Then is that right?
Yeah. The west of us and north of us, there's tremendous mountain jungle.
Yeah.
And we'll go all the way south along the corridor of the Andes. But we're down in the basin itself here.
Okay. That's great. And if people wanted to come and visit, how can they best find you and reach out and set something up?
Yeah, the very best way is just go to our website, bluemorphotours.com. And there we have all of our different offerings. We hold a number of different kinds of retreats in 4 different locations within Peru, 2 here in the Amazon and 2 in the Andes near Cusco, which is also an incredible experience to get to go to Cusco. It's typically a bucket list place to go in the world, Machu Picchu area, Rainbow Mountain. So we have retreats out of there, and also here in the jungle, which equally is a once in a lifetime experience to get to come see just the environment, the biosphere, the amount of life is stunning, and listening to the forest sing at night is a true one-off experience.
Yeah, it's deafening, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very
Very
loud.
loud.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Hamilton, thank you so much for sharing what you offer and some insights on the experience. And really appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Nick. It's a pleasure, and really glad to be able to be here on your podcast.
Thank you, sir. Take care.